You were saying, continue your thought about in real life, people don't always get away with it.
Right. But I think there's something different. Like, because, okay, the artist can say, I'm portraying what's real. People are evil and people get away with evil.
Your lamp is moving a lot. Sorry. Yeah.
But I think that's a separate topic. I think whenever, for example, Hemingway, I said this earlier, Hemingway said, you have to write what's true in order for your art to be good. Mm-hmm. Write the truest sentence you know. And that's what he said.
I think it's because he's getting at the point that for us to get to the highest truth or the highest beauty or the highest good, they have to go together. Like you can't have the highest good without it also being true and beautiful. You can't have the highest beauty without having the... You get what I'm saying. Yeah. I'm not going to... I'll get lost with the three of them. But yeah.
What I was getting at with that is that he emphasizes it has to be true. But I think it's good to... I think you should talk about truth, not just in the sense of true, this is true to me, or this is true in the sense that it actually happened in reality and it inspires my story. I think you should get to a metaphysical kind of truth. And that's kind of my argument for why you shouldn't have this kind of depictions of evil in art with the characters getting away with it in the art piece itself.
Wow, okay.
Because that's not metaphysically true.
Even though it might have happened in that instance, it's not true in the sense
I think when you're creating a work of art, there's something almost, metaphysical is a stretch. Well, it's not really, but I think most people would be off-put by that. Like,
okay, let's dive into that.
You're romanticizing it a little bit too much. But here's what I was getting at with that. The reason I came to that conclusion of like being okay with saying there's almost divinity in artists, and that can sound really ridiculous to most people.
It is. I agree.
It is ridiculous, right?
No, it's not ridiculous. I think that's exactly right.
Yeah. And I think there's several ways of reasoning about it. I think one of them is the fact that no one's actually a creator except God.
Right,
so
but you can partake.
All artists, it's not like you're not creating something from scratch. You're using something. I'm going to cut you off. You've
jumped through like a million points, and I want to stop at the beginning because you just made the claim that you don't believe that artists should portray a character do bad and get away with it.
I'm still on that point.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get so lost. Continue though.
I'm still on that point.
Okay, you're still on that point.
So, you read about Saint John Paul II, right?
A little, yeah.
And what he said about
artists.
Yeah. I forgot what I was getting at with John Paul II. What was I just saying just now?
Before I interrupted you so rudely?
No.
I'm sorry. It's just you were saying that artists have a little bit of divinity in them, and I agreed with you. And that you said that God... we're not creators.
Yeah.
We only help.
You co-create with God.
That's right.
So I think Aquinas would say... So Aquinas' definition of art is right... Do you remember it? It's right reason... with an action to be taken or something like that. But I think it sounds really confusing. But when I broke it down...
It was, and that's why I ignored it.
It's kind of weird. But I really... It was a few days ago that I thought about it more. And I think what I kind of concluded from his definition was that the artist is responsible for using his right reason, for using his moral conscience in accordance with right reason to create something that is... consistent with metaphysical truth.
Yeah. So he shouldn't be lying in the sense that he could portray a character, do evil and get away with it, because even though it might happen in reality, sometimes it's not metaphysically true that anyone can get away with anything. Exactly.
You got it.
I got it. And I think you're right. I will push back on it because I think that art, okay, and this is where Plato would say that I'm getting dangerous, doesn't have to, there's some artistic merit in, what am I trying to say? I don't think that for
one, sorry.
No, go for it.
I agree that there's artistic merit, and that's a distinction.
No, I know there's a distinction.
Even Aquinas makes.
Yes, I'm sorry. I just rambled on and I didn't actually get to anywhere. What I was trying to say is, in a show like Peaky Blinders, and no, that's too broad because it's a show. I would rather
talk about The Wolf of Wall Street.
Okay, let's talk about. Well, no, that one is a clear example in which you're of course right. I need a more morally gray movie. because
Breaking Bad, the show.
yeah, no, but that one he does get his his comeuppance at the end. Like he doesn't actually get away with it.
I kind of have a bad feeling about it.
No,
though.
his family suffered the consequences of his actions. He died. His brother-in-law died.
I agree. But here's my objection.
With Breaking Bad as a piece of art?
Yeah. With it being morally good.
I didn't say it was morally good, but I would say that it's not morally evil.
Okay. I guess, okay, maybe I'll argue this. Maybe it's not in line with Aquinas' definition of art. Maybe that's what I'm saying.
Okay, I could disagree with
it's
that.
not the right reason.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think the reason for it is, you're right, he shows the consequences. He dies, obviously, at the end. His family suffers from...
And Jesse as a character suffers so much for every single... Like, every time he does anything that goes against his conscience, he suffers greatly, and it's depicted beautifully. So I take it back. I do think Breaking Bad is a morally good... That's why I didn't want to talk about that one. We could talk about Wolf of Wall Street.
Morally good, let's be clear about what we mean by morally good.
Okay, there's... an art can be good both in its artistic merit and its moral...
But are you considering the principle of integral good? Because
yes.
if you are, then
I think so.
You cannot say
define
that.
it again, and I think so.
So Aquinas wrote about the principle of integral good, where he said that in order for something to be considered morally good, for example, Breaking Bad, for it to be considered a morally good piece of art, then there can be a single component in it that is evil. So
no, that's not what he argues. Maybe I'm wrong. He would argue that nothing can be evil and be gotten away with, pretty much, or it has to hold to the metaphysical truth of reality.
No,
because
it was
crime
more...
and punishment depicts evil.
No, I'm not saying you can't depict evil.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying, of course, Breaking Bad depicts evil,
so
and that doesn't cancel it out. What I'm saying is one intention behind it is evil. And let me explain what I mean by intention in the example of Breaking Bad.
Sure.
The very end, you're saying we see the consequences. Why is there, for lack of a better term, happy music playing? It's almost like it sounds stupid, but it's like you don't get so these are the consequences of leading this life.
I don't think the artist needs to spoon feed you. I think it's okay for an artist to be like, hey, maybe he thought that he was satisfied with his decisions and that he's going and dying happily. But the artist does have a responsibility not to lead you to sin, but it doesn't have to spoon feed you and see, this is bad, kids, don't do this. Or I think it can have a morally ambiguous ending, or like the lesson doesn't have to be so black and white, because then it's not artistic.
Yeah, I'm not saying it should spoon feed you at all.
No, but I think there could be a balance between it's more morally good, but it's less artistically good.
How did you feel about it though? Because when you talk about art,
super satisfying.
I think it's right to be able to say, how did you feel about it? Because that's kind of your first interaction with it, is how you feel. Then you can reason with it.
And not only that, but that's how you judge art. Yeah, like you can judge art by how it made you feel. If it didn't make you feel
as
good.
Opposed to looking, the 3-act structure is good, it breaks into it. That. No one looks at that.
My favorite pieces of art are the ones that make me feel the most feelings.
Yeah.
But going back to...
so you felt satisfied at
that
the
was,
end.
I think, a really good ending. Now, you could say it could have been a better...
What do you mean by satisfied?
Hold on. Sorry. You could say it could have been a better, more moral ending by having somber music and by the show allowing us to reflect more on the morality of his choices, and that would have dropped the artistic merit of it. Like, you could have a balancing act in which it could... But I think an artist's job is still to also make an artistically good piece of work. And as long as it doesn't compromise on its morality, then that's good. And I don't think it... Yeah, maybe like it could be a shifting scale. It doesn't have to be black and white. But I think there could be a case in which, like we were saying about like a movie like God is Dead, you have your morality really high. And this is a bad example because maybe it's not a perfect example of a good moral movie. But
like It's a Wonderful Life, for example.
A movie like A Wonderful Life is both artistically extremely high and morally perfect. Like that's why it's considered a perfect movie.
For us, yeah.
No, it's a perfect movie. Like I can make that, like it is both morally right and artistically right to the highest degree. Like we'll make that claim in the next video when we talk about it.
It's a perfect movie.
Yeah, I could probably argue like that's, but I think not every story is going to be perfect. And oh man, I don't know. I disagree with the fact that it's bad under Aquinas' viewpoint.
I think it's really hard to have a concrete answer. Like you said, it's hard for it to be black and white, but it is black and white when you're taking...
There is a line, yeah.
When you're taking into consideration
But let's talk
Aquinas'
about Wolf of Wall
definition.
Street, because that one is more clear.
So I was gonna draw a parallel between Wolf of Wall Street and Breaking Bad, because in Wolf of Wall Street it's very clear how, I looked at the runtime. I didn't actually watch it because I can't bring myself to watch that anymore. And the
Like 3
first, it's 3 hours, and the first 150 minutes are all glorification of Jordan Belfort,
Right.
and then he has to show the consequences, right?
The consequences are so not consequential.
Yeah, that's the way they're depicted.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's because it was reality. He could say, that's the truth. That's what happened in real life. But to your point,
the metaphysical reality is definitely not in line. But if you just looking at that, 150 minutes of all of this debauchery and excess and
sin.
corruption, adultery, drugs, greed, everything you can name.
Yes.
And then you have the consequences. He gets divorced. He's on parole or something like that.
Like a few months.
And then then he goes back to, and now he's giving a seminar and inspiring people.
But he's still alive right now, and it's real life, and that is what happened. So to Martin Scorsese's credit, he's like, I'm depicting life as it is, and this is true. To your point, which I loved, I hadn't actually considered it, is that it's not true enough. Even though it's true right now, there are consequences deeper than what were shown, and that goes into his soul. Like, he didn't delve deeper into his soul is really corrupted, and he's further away from God.
The consequences of other people, of the world.
That's right.
He made the world the worst place.
Yeah, he didn't show that in its true life, so that's why the morality of the movie is lower. Because, what would you say if I said, 150 minutes of sin, and sin are still justified in that movie if the consequences were just as bad? Would you say that movie is good then?
I think there would be a better argument for saying that it's not, kind of, but I mean, it's still like the unnecessary scenes, you would still have objection. Just like pornography in the film.
Let's talk about that, because it's a movie like Les Miserables, or how would you pronounce it?
I don't know what that movie is.
Maybe I'm mispronouncing it wrong, because you definitely know Les Miserables.
Les Miserables.
Sorry, I don't know French. Did you see that movie?
No.
Okay. Then let's not talk about it.
It has nudity?
I don't remember if it has nudity. Maybe it's just...
I feel so prude.
No.
I talk about these things, because I guess I was just immersed in just normal life, right? Like people in school, and this is all. And I watched Wolf of Wall Street multiple times. And now I've just shifted my perspective to the point where I'm just on the other extreme.
I think you're right to be on the other extreme. I think it's a safer place to be. And that line can shift from person to person depending on how much that will put you in a near question of sin, or it might just tax you more morally. And that could be a shifting line between person to person.
Except for pornography, though. That's never justified.
Okay. That's what I was getting to. I agree. I mean, you should never show pornography or see pornography. But I think...
Because even in the act itself, it's an injustice to the dignity of the actors, even. So not
but what if it's not showing... But that's where it gets a little gray, because what if it's not showing nudity, but it's still depicting...
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I mean, and then if it's depicting it in a negative sense, where
no, I'm sorry. Even if there's no nudity, if it's I guess it's kind of morally gray.
That's why I was pointing to the movie, Les Miserables. But she's a character is a prostitute, and it shows... That's a bad example, because I don't know exactly the movie well enough to point parallels to it. But I guess what I'm saying is I could see an example in which a movie shows morally depraved actions taking place by the main character. Like in this Wolf of Wall Street movie, imagine in that second half that he does get his comeuppance. You could say, well, that definitely increased its morality in terms of a movie, but it's still not good because he showed the debauchery in a very explicit sense. Is there a line there where it's like, okay, but maybe that is real, that is true, and if we're showing truth and that's the priority, then it could be justified in art.
Yeah. Well, now we're getting away from the metaphysical truth. So if you're considering that the artist is responsible for showing an accurate view of reality from a metaphysical standpoint, as we had established before, then no.
Actually, can we pause here real quick? What is the difference between truth here in reality and the metaphysical truth that you're referring to?
Metaphysical truth is not it's not under the constraints of time.
Okay.
It's just like the order of the universe,
Okay.
right? Like the inherent justice of the
Yes.
universe. If
Yeah,
you do evil, it's like what Jordan Peterson talks about. You
No
can't
one-
twist the fabric of reality without it snapping back at
Yes.
you.
Okay,
You
I just
have
wanted
to-
to explain that real quick.
I think the artist is responsible for showing that, because then you can glorify evil and it reaches the hearts of people to the point where maybe I think most people, I don't want to get stray off into another thing, but I thought about this too. It's how political figures, it's almost like artists have more influence over people than political figures
100%.
because people think more with their emotions as opposed to with reason,
Yes.
you know? So it's
Not
just
only
kind
that,
of the,
but artists, they try to capture something and in time, you know. Art is long, life is short. Like art will live longer than life. I don't know where I read that quote. It was one of the quotes that I wanted to talk about. But going back to the morality of the actual actions and the responsibility that an artist has in only depicting goodness, you can quickly see how it's like, oh, well, if you can't show certain evil acts like fornication or something like that, then what about killing someone? And then, well, should we only show virtuous people? And then we're back to the God is dead, you know, or a really Christian film with...
no, I don't think necessarily, because we could list examples like movies like It's a Wonderful... I'm not saying... Even you could even depict more, even so filmmakers, I think were a lot more, it's like now I sound crazy because it's 2025 and people like we're so used to it.
Right.
But even like 50 years ago, artists were really creative with the way that they implied violence and adultery and evil and greed.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. But why is it that... So then the distinction we're making is it's not that showing... It's not that implying that it's evil or it's bad for
Or
an artist to
having
do.
it. You can have it.
Yeah.
It's just
The explicit showing of it.
if it leads people to commit sin.
That's where I'm going.
Yeah.
At. So we're talking, I guess, in two different points. The point that you're now getting at is there's not only the responsibility to have a metaphysical truth portrayed by artists, but also in the manner in which you're communicating that truth, don't lead other people to sin.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It's both of those,
Yeah.
I think.